Para contar a grandes rasgos, para conocer un poco más la trayectoria del hermano Michael, contamos con la presencia de nuestro vicario provincial, el hermano Xavier Ginet. Muchas gracias, Xavi. Gracias, Xavi. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Cuando quieras.
Thank you, Imma. It's with a big pleasure that I introduce Brother Michael Green to all the people that is following this webinar. Brother Michael is a Marist historian and scholar, and perhaps many of us know him through his work in those areas. But over his 50 years as brother, he has worn many other hats. In fact, most of his life as brother has been associated with Marist schools as a teacher, headmaster, and supervisor of schools. He was a provincial councillor for over 20 years and a member of the Mission Council in his province, and then the Council of the Marist Association in Australia for 15 years, as well as being the first National Director of Marist schools in Australia. At the level of the Marist Institute, he was a member of the Commission for New Models of Governance and Animation. Of particular interest for us today is that he has been closely involved with helping to shape the directions for how Mary's life and mission has developed in Australia. We have asked Michael today to share reflections on that journey, the decisions that the Marist have taken in Australia, the reasons for these decisions, what they have learned along the way, what are the challenges and opportunities they face today. And I am sure we will see how much all that aligns with our own experiences and our own hopes. Michael, thank you very much for being there, and we listen to you.
Thank you very much, Xavi, for your introduction, and hello, everyone. It's evening for most of you. For me, it's early morning, but I hope I will be alert enough to speak with you this morning. I'm going to share my screen. I hope this works. I hope everyone can see that. Is it okay? So from the time of Lavala, we have been trying to find the best way to live Marist life and to undertake our mission as Marists, you know, really from the time of St. Marcelin, from the beginning until now. And I know you have been doing that. We have been doing that here and all around the Marist world. It is like that. We have been looking at our purposes and our priorities, what should be our principles, what should be our emphases, what structures we should have, how should we look, how should we be, will we survive? We're looking at questions of viability and also integrity. You know, are we true to our founding? What sort of formation should we have? Who should be our leaders? These are questions I am sure that are very familiar to you. And always it comes back to who are we? Why have we come together? What are we trying to do? And how should we try to do it, you know? When I was writing the third volume of the history of the Institute a few years ago, some questions really came very clear for me, they crystallized for me. And one thing was this: 50 years ago, we were talking about the renewal of religious life. It was a call from the Second Vatican Council to renew, to make new again, and that was our narrative for a long time. Our discourse: renewal, renewal, renewal. And then probably in the late 1980s, 1990s, we started to talk a little bit about refoundation, to refound the Institute, and what that might mean. But I think more recently, we have been looking at reimagining, to reimagine how Marist life can be, and to reimagine Marist mission and how it can serve the church today. And the journey I'd like to share with you a little bit today is around that. How have we in Australia tried to reimagine, or are reimagining, our Marist life and mission? Perhaps it's a time of dawn. You know, when I wrote this book, I called it, in English, it's called Dawn's Uncertain Light. My original title, the first title, which we did not use, my first title was Uncertain Dawn. Is there going to be a dawn of something new? But I went back to the title Dawn's Uncertain Light, because it is not always clear just before dawn what it is going to be like. So let's look at some of these questions through the way that we in Australia have tried to answer them in the last 30 years particularly. But a little of my context, first of all, just so you understand where I am coming from. These days, I'm a member of a province that is rather big. We are 11 countries. We also have a novitiate in Sri Lanka and scholasticate in Manila. So altogether, 11 countries plus those 2 countries. We have people with 20 or more languages. We cover 2 continents. From east to west is about 10,000 kilometers, 8 time zones in that time. So like you, like your province, it's multi-ethnic, it's multicultural, it's multinational, it's big. So to come in on that, I'd like to come just though to Australia, because what I'm talking about today is what we have done just in this country. And some of you may know Australia well, and some may not, and some of you may not quite understand. We are a country of about 28 million people. It is very multicultural, very Asian in lots of ways. In fact, for FIFA, for the football, we are in the Asian conference, not in Oceania, but in Asia. The second most commonly spoken language in this country is Chinese, and the third is Arabic, and the third is Vietnamese. So it's a very, very Asian country in lots of ways. I would like to take you back. Although we are now part of the Star of the Sea province, when I joined the brothers, and Xavi mentioned I have been a brother for just over 50 years. Last year was 50 years. I joined the province of Sydney, and the area that I have shaded there is the area that was covered by the province of Sydney. The other province in Australia was the province of Melbourne. But I'd like just to draw the contrast of my life. This is my personal life. I did my novitiate in 1974, and last year was 2024, 50 years later. When I joined, in our province, we had 440 brothers. The average age was 28. We had 28 schools. And all of those 28 schools had a brothers community attached to them. The teachers in those schools 70 to 90% were brothers. And every school, the principal or the headmaster was a brother. 50 years later, in that same geographical area of what was the province of Sydney, there were 95 brothers. This is interesting. Their average age was 82. It's the reverse of 28. The number's in the other way. In that area, we had 37 schools. 11 of them had been founded in the last 50 years. Only 5 of those schools had a brothers community attached to them. Less than 1% of the teachers were brothers, almost none, almost zero. And there were 0 brothers who were in charge, none. So that is a dramatic change in my own lifetime. And it provides a context for what I'm going to say, what we are doing. And I'm sure that in your countries, a very similar story has unfolded. But I'd like to go from the year 1993 to the year 2025. So the last, 32 years or 3 decades. And I'm going to just take some years along that timeline. Just a few milestones, not everything, because of course, things happen every year, decisions and planning and everything every year. But I'd just like to take some and explain where we have gone and why we have gone there. So if we go back to 1993, it's a year of a general chapter of the brothers, and for the first time, lay people attended as visitors to that chapter. And the word in English, anyway, that we were using was partnership with lay people. We were not talking about them as Marists at that time. That nowhere in the documents of that chapter are lay people referred to as Marists, but as lay people who are partners with the brothers. But things were changing. In our province, we established an education commission. The majority of people on that commission were lay people. We introduced a formation program, and I know a number of provinces around the world were doing this. We called our program Sharing Our Call. It was a three-day residential program. And we ran our first one then. We still run it. It has a different name now. It is, these days we call it In the Footsteps of Muscle and Champagne. But we called it Sharing Our Call, and I remember it very well because I was involved in presenting on it. And we brought together some very significant lay people in Marist schools. And we brothers wanted to share with them our call as brothers. And this did not go well. Almost the very good people. But right at that first program, they said to us, no, brother, you cannot come along here and say you are sharing your call with us. We also hear the call. We are also Marist educators. This has also been our life. So let's talk about sharing together. And I remember this very clearly. I remember the session that it happened in. And it changed a lot of things for us. It changed our thinking. And so we started to use the term Marist educator for all people. We started to use the term Marist for lay people as well as brothers, really from that time. And we started to define what Marist education was, the characteristics of it. And I know in France, in Spain, also publications were being written. Some people who wrote those I know on this Zoom call today. So all around the Marist world, we were looking at what is Marist education and who does it. who is a Marist educator. That started to happen very quickly. Go forward 2 years. We've had our first layperson as a principal in a school. Had a few more schools now, 31 schools. And we had a conference. It was the first time that we really had a professional conference of school principals or school headmasters. Yes, we all had always come together once a year, but this was a proper conference. You know, we went to a venue, hired a conference center. It was professionally run, all of that. And we had keynote addresses and sessions, workshops, everything that goes with the conference. But importantly, we asked every principal, every headmaster to bring with him, they're all men, bring with him one layperson, a significant layperson from their school. And again, this really changed things for us. It became a very different dynamic because half the people there were not brothers, but were Marist. And in preparing for this session today, I came across a paper that I wrote, an address that I gave. I have it here. It's 15 pages of a keynote address on what was our future, what could our future be. And I was interested to reread it. I had not read it for many years. And I was interested to read what I thought might happen in 10 or 20 or 30 years. And one of the things I spoke about then was the need for an association, a need for a network of schools, a need for an association of Marist educators, as we described it then. Interesting. 2 years later, of course, we have the new document from the Institute on Marist education, a vision for Marist education, and we used that extensively here. We'll go forward to 1999. In the province of Sydney, we still had the province of Sydney. Now we had 35 schools, and 14 of them now were led by lay people. So this change was happening very quickly for us. We decided to form an association of schools with the Marist schools in the province of Melbourne, the other Australian province. And also we invited 2 Marist sisters schools and 2 Marist fathers schools to join with us in this association of schools. And we started to have a conference every 2 years. This was also very significant. The work that we did, the commissions that we had, the documents and so on. Also in 1999, we began our first pilgrimage, which we have done every year since. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be leaving for our next pilgrimage, our 26th pilgrimage. And we took people to the Hermitage and to Fourvière, and we were there for 3 weeks. We don't do that now. We're just there for 8 or 9 days, but 3 weeks, and we studied with them Marist education, and you know, all the things you do when you go to the Hermitage and so on. This generation of people on this pilgrimage, these are photos from that pilgrimage in 1999. Most of them have retired now. They're finished in our schools, and we have a new generation. But this was very significant. And of all the things we do, probably the pilgrimage has been the most formative for us as a group of Marists in Australia. Almost everyone who goes is a lay person, usually 1 or 2 brothers, but that's it. These days, we try to start in the Holy Land. So we begin with Jesus, then we go to Rome, then we go to France. We can't go to Israel at the moment, so we are going to Greece and Turkey to do St. Paul, and then Rome, and then France. But I go on. I'm just mentioning a few things. So 2005, this was another significant moment for us because we appointed a lay person, a layman, Tony Clark, to be director of formation for our schools, and to be based centrally in the provincial house. Tony is still in that job over 30 years, or 30 years later, exactly 30 years later, or 20 years later, I'm sorry, 20 years later, 2005, 2025. And we developed a team. It has grown. Now there's about 8 or 9 people who are involved full-time, or some of them part-time, with formation work, and they run a whole lot of programs. I'll come back to that. We started to move just from sharing our call to other programs, to programs we delivered in schools, others that people came to, special conferences, retreats, and that started to grow, and it continues to grow. In the province of Sydney now, there are 2005, now there are 38 schools, and 22 of the principals is a lay person, including women and men. We became involved in the preparation for the first International Mission Assembly, MIMA one. That was important for us. We became involved in the formation of the new spirituality document that became known as Water from the Rock 2 years later. And again, that was very significant for us, as I'm sure it was for you. Go to 2010. This is an important year for us. We had been doing a lot of planning, strategic planning, ideas, and so on. And in 2010, we had MIMA. MIMA had happened. We'd had a provincial chapter in 2007, very significant one. Water from the Rock had been published. In 2009, we had our first mission assembly, different from a provincial chapter. So from that time, when we talked about mission, we talked about it in a mission assembly, not in the provincial chapter. That provincial chapter then was for the brothers. Mission assembly was for everyone. Our first one in 2009. The book Gathered Around the Same Table also was published. We have the general chapter in 2009. So all of that, in 2010, we established a new entity. We had the association, but we finished the association of the schools, and we established something new called Marist Schools Australia. And it was going to be the group still today, that governs our schools, that organizes formation, that supports leaders for all the Marist schools in the country. So 2 provinces still. We had taken that decision 2 years before, 3 years before, and in 2010, we established it. What was significant about that is that the business of our ministries, particularly our schools, our works, no longer was talked about at the Provincial Council. All the directions, the planning, the governance of our schools happened in Marist Schools Australia. The development of lots of new policies and new structures, and particularly the expansion of formation. Right from the start, our emphasis has been on formation. That's where we've put all our energy. And I think that's why we have been able to do what we have done, because we have many people who had formation experiences, even if it's only, you know, one workshop in a year or something. But every year to this day, our formation team, led by Tony Clark, has personal contact with about 5,000 teachers, because they're in every school at least once a year. But many other programs happen where people come out of school. We go on. So we go on to, if I can get this to work. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is a couple of slides of PowerPoint slides that we used at the time. I found these on my computer. These were slides that we used in 2010 to describe to people what Marist Schools Australia would be. And first of all, it was going to be in 3 regions. It still is in 3 regions around the country. All these different schools. And there were 50 Marist schools around the country at that time. 15 of those were directly governed by Marist Schools Australia, 35 governed by dioceses or parishes. 41 of the schools had lay principals, 9 brother principals at that time. And only 19 of that 50 now had a brothers community associated with it. We put this to people, and I haven't checked. This is the same slide that I used 15 years ago. We said to people, where do we want to be in Australian Marist schools in 10 or 20 or 30 years? Where do we want to be? And our answer to that was, we're hoping to have a movement of people who identify themselves, who understand themselves as Marist. First of all, they understand that they are Marist in their spirituality, their way of living the gospel, their way of being Christian is distinctively Marist. That attracts them, that they like that. They're at home in that. Secondly, their professional practice as an educator, as a Catholic educator, is Marist. They can tell you what Marist education looks like. They can tell you about our characteristics, our emphases, what we do, what the culture of our school is like. So professionally, they can self-identify as Marist. And thirdly, they have some sort of sense of association with one another. So this was our dream. This was our dream in 2010. And we said that at the time, Marist education, what is Marist education? Really, it is what Marists do in education. So if we're going to have Marist education, we need Marists. We ask ourselves, well, who are today's Marists? This is in 2010. We said, well, who are they? And our answer to that was, well, who can they be? They are the people already in our schools. Just like for Marcelin, who were the first brothers? They were the young men in Lavala and the surrounding regions. So you need to deal with the people you have. So we ask ourselves, what can we do to help to form these people as Marists? How can we sustain them as Marists? How can we associate them together as Marists? And our answer at the time was, well, the Marist Schools Australia will help to do that, so that we will have vitality in our charism and we will have viability in our structure. That's what Marist Schools Australia tried to do. And we had lots of ways of doing that. We had our MLF is the Mission and Life Formation team. Lots of courses and programs. We had journals, communications, conferences. We also connected, we had a youth ministry program. We used Ramar at the time. We call it another name now. And other things that we were doing. I'll move on because I need to move through. But what we said was we needed schools that were going to be authentically Marist, and they would be authentically Marist if they had Marists in them, if they had Marists leading them. So we needed genuine Marist people. So our emphasis was on building capacity of people and confidence of people and comfort within people to describe themselves as Marist. We said we will have Marists. Who will they be? A movement of people in the church who live out of a distinctive spirituality, an identifiable community, and undertaking ministry in a characteristic way. to bring Christ's life to birth. So those three things, right from the beginning, we emphasize these three things: the spiritual, the professional, the associative, being together, faith, ministry, community. So we go forward. 2011, we had our first national mission assembly. We'd had a mission assembly in the province of Sydney, but now we had a national one. We established a National Mission Council, and the Mission Council had oversight of Marist life and mission. Not the life of the brothers, but everything else. And the majority of the people on that council were lay people. 2012, the two provinces did come together, but that did not impact on our ministries, on our schools and our social works, because already that was national. The next big year for us was 2015, because in 2015 we established what we called, and we still call, the Marist Association of St. Muslim. Now, what was that? Well, at the time, it seemed the most natural thing to do. It was clear to us. It was obvious to us. If you're looking at 2015, we're into a second generation of people now. We started these formation programs in 1993. We're now in 2015. People are describing themselves as Marists, and so it just seemed very natural. And we understood it this way. This is, again, the diagram we used at the time. We said we take the people in all around the country. What we can describe everyone as part of the Marist family, you know, the teachers, the brothers, the parents, the students, friends, affiliates, supporters. You know, the Marist family was all of those people, is all of those people. But within that broad group, people now can formally join something structural, something formal, the Marist Association. And our aim was to set this up canonically and civilly. So it existed canonically, and it also existed in law, civil law. And I'll describe how we went with that. Importantly for us, and this is critical for what I want to say to you today, it was not an auxiliary arm of the province. It was not within the Brothers Province. It was associated with the Brothers Province. It was in an interdependent relationship with the province. And this remains the case. Now we have the province of Star of the Sea. Even the province is much bigger. Part of the Brothers Province now is well outside Australia. But the Marist Association is a national thing. The key things about this: it was a new space, a new structure into which everyone comes. Lay people, brothers had to join, and still do, join the association. It is where we came together to share mission. And we could all be there equally. It could be a place where we could all exercise co-responsibility for mission. So most of the brothers, at least the brothers who were active, joined the association, but they were a minority. Our thinking was we needed there's lots of new wine, lots of new Marists, but we needed a new wineskin. We're not going to fit them into the old wineskin. The old wineskin was the Brothers Province, still is the Brothers Province. Brothers need a province, but we needed somewhere where we could come together as Marist people for mission, and that was the association. So in other words, it was not a third order model, not a lay branch of the brothers. It was a new way of being an ecclesial community, a spiritual family, of being the Marists in Australia. The relationship with the brothers' province was not a dependent one, but an interdependent one. The new association needed the brothers, but the brothers also needed the association to have a future for Marist life and mission. So the relationship was interdependent. I wrote for the 2009 chapter, I remember writing an article which was in Marist notebooks in Écoles Maristes on new tents. We needed new tents. It was this sort of thinking. I wrote many articles at the time. One was in an education journal. It was called New Wineskins, Reimagining Australia's Marists. So this was our thinking. This was still is our thinking. So who could be a member of this association? Who was it for? Who's a member? Well, the membership, it was and is for people for whom the Marist way is quite important for them in how they live out their baptismal vocation at this time in their life. Two things here. One is, it's not, for most people, lay people anyway, it's not the only way they live out their baptismal vocation. They do that in their family. They're probably a member of a parish. They may be a member of another group. But the Marist way is quite significant for them. And the last little line there, at this time in their life. So we did not necessarily see this as a lifelong thing or a permanent thing. It is for me as a brother. But I come to this association as a religious, as a brother. It can be different and quite legitimately different for someone else. Like someone who is in a Marist school, teaching, for example, in a Marist school at the moment, it just makes sense because their way of ministry, their way of doing their work, their teaching and their associating is with other Marists. So join the association. But later on, in another part of their career, they may have to move. Their husband or wife may move. They may be in another part of the country. There is no Marist school. Maybe there's a Franciscan school or a Dominican school, and they become involved in that community. That's fine. Just like you move parishes. You can be parts of different communities and different stages of your life. We've always been comfortable with that idea. But there is a formal commitment, and it's renewed each year. And that's how we see it. So this was very big for us, you know, the formation of this association. We had our first assembly. We chose an association council, which took over from the mission council. Only 3 of the 9 members, 3 of the 9 members are brothers, and the others are Marist laymen and women. We form a strategic plan, which we call We Marists. That's the document. That's the first council back in 2015. It's our commissioning. I was at our commissioning. And we developed this vision statement. And I'd like to read it to you because we have, to this day, 10 years later, we have the same vision statement. Who are we? We understand ourselves to be a vital faith community. That's important. It's not just a professional group. It's a faith community. An expression of church. A way of being church. That embraces God's mission with Marian joy, Marian hope, and Marian audacity. A discipleship of Jesus Christ, it's all about Jesus. And the priorities for all our ministries are inspired by the gospel passion and gospel compassion which fired St. Marcelin. We remain attentive to the God of all life. We are committed to nurturing our spirituality, it's our personal spirituality, through ongoing formation. And we draw both on Marist tradition and Marist imagination to be game changers for young people. So it's all about mission. It exists for mission, not for the people themselves, particularly those most on the peripheries. We foster connectedness and communion among ourselves as an association, and with the Marist community across the world, and of the church of which we are part. That's taken from our strategic plan. We saw ourselves called to mystical attentiveness, to prophetic action, to be people of communion. We had Marist Schools Australia, which is our main ministry, also Marist Youth Ministry, Marist Youth Care, which is our social works, and Marist Solidarity. So then we wanted to get canonical approval. So we went to the Holy See, but we also went to our General Council at the time. Brother Emili was Superior General, so it's that council. And Brother Emili said, well, this is a great idea, but I think we should do it worldwide, not just in Australia. So let's go to the Holy See just once, you know. Well, that was probably a good idea, but it made it very complicated, and we ran into problems. So we did not get the canonical approval. We tried twice and did not get it. We're going to take another direction now. I'll speak about in a minute. But the involvement of the Superior General and the General Council in the end was more a problem than a help, if I can say that. Sorry if anyone was on the council. We established local groups, and at the time we quickly had some hundreds of members. So we go on. Okay, we go on to 2018. And in 2018, we had our second assembly. I'm just having trouble getting my slides to work here, but we'll see how we go. Okay, second assembly. By 2018, over 1,000 members. We appointed for the first time a lay person to be the National Director of Marist Schools Australia. The regional directors are all lay people. The Director of Formation is lay, and almost all of the formation team is lay by this stage, 2018. And we combined what we had. We had a pastoral team in the association and a formation team for the schools, and we combined those into one team. 2022, we have the third assembly, and we couldn't get canonical recognition yet, but we thought we should get the civil incorporation. We should get civil, should exist in law. And so that happened. We established MSA as a company, which was always the plan. And the owner of MSA, Marist Schools Australia, was the association, not the province, not the brothers. So the brothers still own the property, the real estate, but the ministry, the work, the business is owned by the association. Australian Marist Solidarity and Marist Youth Care, which is our social works, they would also become companies in the next year or two. And by this stage, 2022, there are no longer any brothers running schools in our country, or any director of any Marist work really is a brother anymore. That's 3 years ago. So we'd like to think we were getting ready for this. We've been preparing for this for 30 years. And what we expected would happen has happened. So this year now, we are 1,400 members. There are lots of opportunities for formation, for gathering. We have 2 new Marist schools starting this year, both established by diocese, but the diocese came to us and said we would like a new Marist school. We have 59 schools now in MSA. And in July, we had the 4th assembly of the association. And we are currently conducting a sondage of the members to appoint the first lay leader of the association. Up until this stage, the provincial has been the leader of the association. He has been both the leader of the association and the provincial of the brothers. And from this year, it will be a lay person. And as far as canonical recognition goes, we have decided that rather than go to the Holy See, we will go to the Australian Bishops' Conference and obtain canonical recognition for the association under the collectively under the Australian Bishops' Conference. That's our plan. So, if I could summarize a few things, what can we take away? This is what we have learnt. And we're not there yet, and we've got our challenges, and I'll speak about them in a minute. But what we really believe, and have believed for a long time now, is that if Marist life and mission are to have a future, we need Marists. Genuinely, people understand themselves as Marists. And for all these new Marists, only a few, like if we have in our province, or the Australian brothers anyway, average age over 80, in 10 years' time, they're largely effectively finished. The number of active brothers will just be a handful. So we need something different. We need a new wineskin, because at the same time, lots of other people are joining as Marists. We need new wineskins, a new paradigm, a paradigm that's different from the old province paradigm and institute paradigm. It's a modus operandi, a modus vivendi that's inclusive of everyone. And in this country, we do not tend to talk about brothers and lay people or brothers and lay Marists, because we also have some priests in our association. In fact, we have 3 bishops who are members of the association, but we also have some religious women, nuns, sisters. So we don't talk about brothers and lay, we just talk about all Marists. And in this new paradigm, we want to exercise genuine co-responsibility for Marist life and mission in a synodal way, to use the language of today. And if we can achieve that in this new wine, we got new Marists and new wineskins. If we can achieve that, then we hope to have really charismatic vitality and structural integrity. We should have considerable Marist capacity. And for that to happen, just to emphasize, this is what we put so much emphasis into this: formation, formation, formation. For the brothers, this has been a learning. This has been a learning because the brothers have learnt that their essential role as religious is not to be in charge administratively. Our authority as brothers is more a moral authority, like religious in the church. We are 11. That's who we are as religious. But it's not to run it. It's not to administer it. The other side of that coin is, if that's going to happen, then Marist lay people need to step up and take responsibility, accept responsibility. I own this. This is my future. This is our future. And that is an important challenge, but we need to trust that that's going to happen. And we need to be part of the church. And if we've got a canonical entity, then we are guaranteed to be part of the church. We're in dialogue with the church. We haven't got time to do this, but I would encourage you to look at our 2 websites. One is the Marist Association website, and the second is our formation website. And we'll send you these links. But on the formation website in particular, you just see the range of programs that we offer each year, and you'll get a sense of just how broad and wide that formation is, and continues to be. And every year there's new programs. So I'd like to be finished with a little bit of controversy. Pardon me for being controversial. Those who know me know that I can be a little bit controversial, but we have problems. And I share this with you because this is where we are. You're preparing for a chapter. We have told the General Council this, but we have problems with what is being proposed by the General Council and by the Secretary of the Laity. We're involved in that, but what's been proposed, and there is something on Marist News today about it, you might have seen it already, on the proposal to form an association of lay Marists. We got a problem with that. Why? Because the brothers are still at the top. Ultimately, the decisions are being made by the brothers. And the idea that it needs a general chapter of the brothers to decide how lay people are going to fit in, that to our people just does not fly. It just does not work. We are well beyond that. So we don't like that idea. We see it really as just really the old paradigm of the Institute. And if we have the Institute, people who are not brothers cannot be full members by definition. They can be members of this lay association, but that's really just a branch. It's almost like a third order as we see it, which is not where we want to be. The third order model we think is medieval. It's not today's church. We have a problem with the term Marist vocation. We're using the word vocation. Why? Because that's the word we have used for brothers, and it has a sense of being permanent or being primary, like being the first thing. For a layperson, the first thing is their family. It's not their membership of the association. For me as a brother, it's different. But for lay people, we'd say no. And it's lifelong for the brothers. For lay people, in our experience, not. Some people, yeah, and that's great. It's wonderful. Some people, it's their life. It's a major part of their life. But for most, in our experience anyway, not. And we think, as I said earlier, people can live out their baptismal vocation simultaneously in different ways. You can be a member of a number of communities at the same time, and we are. And this can vary over time. We don't think that being a Marist is either exclusive or linear. And we think that what is proposed is a bit like that. And we don't like the brother-lay binary that I just spoke about. And in the English language, I know it's different in Spanish, different in French, but in English, the term lay Marist is not a helpful term because lay implies not fully in, just part of. Because we don't really have the expression in English as in French or Spanish or laïque. We don't have that noun, so we use lay as the adjective, Marist as the noun, lay Marist. It's not who we are really. So just to finish, friends, this is where we see ourselves. We think we've got three big opportunities. The opportunity for us is to continue to offer our spirituality and community in a way of mission that is attractive to people, that Marist way. We opportunity to be synodal as a faith community, inclusive of everyone, attentive to what's going on, and Marist. And why? Because if we are, then we can be effective evangelizers and educators among young people. That's why we do it. The challenges for us, the first one is formation, to continue with that, and with scholarship. Why do I say scholarship? Because if we are not writing, if we are not researching, if we are not doing new things, then we're dead. We're not growing. But who will do this? Who will be the next generation of Marist scholars and researchers and writers and animators? That's a challenge. Who will be our leaders locally and nationally? How will those people have a really living connection with church? We see we've got three real existential risks. Like, will we survive or not? One is, and this is a challenge for us as an association, many of our members sort of join, that's great, and they do their work in their own places, usually schools. there is a challenge for us in developing a sense of collective co-responsibility for the whole thing among people. There's still a reliance, even after 15 years, there's a bit of a reliance on the brother. This will continue because the brothers will continue. But that's going to reach a crunch moment in the next decade. This remains a challenge always, to keep recruiting young people. We have our eyes on people who are in their 30s and 40s. Any healthy organization is younger rather than older. It's attractive to younger people, and so that remains a huge risk for us, and we continue to work on it, because we need to avoid what I've called here the old soldiers syndrome. Like, we don't want an association, and we have lots of older people in it, but we don't want an association, and that's great, but we don't want an association where people are brought together by memory rather than imagination, by talking about what was than what is going to be, it needs to be younger. And it always comes back to this, who in each school, in each place, in each ministry are the critical mass of people, Marists, and who are they? How are they formed? Who are they spiritually? Who are they professionally? How do they understand themselves? We hope that they can be people like that, who can describe themselves that way. So let me stop there. Now, I'm not sure how we're going for time, Xavi, but I'll leave it to you to what we do next.
Muchas gracias, Michael, por esta intervención, por este rico recorrido que nos has hecho por la evolución de la vida marista en Australia, ¿no? Destacando momentos claves, ¿no? Como ha sido el 2010, que se plantea el sueño de cómo nos veremos dentro de 20, 30 años, ¿no? Hasta el 2015, que se crea la Asociación Marista de San Marcelino, ¿no? Este nuevo espacio con personas para las que es importante el compromiso, hasta llegar a hoy, ¿no? Con estos retos, con estas oportunidades, con estos grandes interrogantes que tenemos para el futuro. Ahora, pues, con todos estos elementos que el hermano Michael nos ha confrontado, ¿no? Nos ha puesto delante de nosotros, vamos a tener un espacio para compartir, para reflexionar, para debatir en pequeños grupos, ¿no? Aproximadamente unos 20-25 minutos, y luego volveremos todos a la sala general y podremos conversar, ¿no? Podemos compartir, le podremos dirigir preguntas a Michael, que las podréis hacer a mano alzada, las podréis escribir en el chat, como vosotros queráis.
Una pregunta ya inicio. Gracias, Michael, por compartir este itinerario. La pregunta que te haría es, para ingresar o formar parte de la asociación, ¿cuál es el proceso o las condiciones para ser miembro de dicha asociación? He entendido que incluso los hermanos deben pedir poder formar parte de ella, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cuáles son las condiciones que tenéis establecidas? Gracias.
Thank you, Xavi. I can speak about that. So the process is simply this: that what happens is that someone who is interested in joining applies, or first of all expresses an interest, and there is a way of doing that via the website. Once the expression of interest has been received, then they will be contacted personally, and there will be a discernment process with that person. also they need to be recommended by another member, by a person. So someone who knows them and is a member of the association supports their application. Then there is a personal conversation, discernment process with that person. And then a recommendation comes to the council of the association. So every meeting of the council, we actually have one tomorrow. There's usually 10 or 20 applications to approve, and they have been the people have gone through that process. In just about every case, the person who is applying has been encouraged to apply, has been invited to apply by people in their school or their local situation. So that's the usual process. If someone applies whom we don't know, who is not known really, then the process is quite thorough. You know, we really want to get to know that person. What we hope is that most of the membership will be people who are working in Marist schools or Marist social works or Marist youth ministry. So they are well known already. Some older people join who have been former teachers, or, and that's fine too, but that's good. But we don't want those people to be the majority, nor do we want people who have happy memories of being a Marist student, you know. That's lovely, but they are not involved in Marist mission, you know, and this is not the Marist answer for everyone. It's not all things to all people. It's the majority of people are associated with carrying out Marist work, doing Marist mission, being in Marist community. So that's who we want mostly. One question for us that's emerging is, what about young people? You know, what about young adults, people in their 20s? And we haven't quite solved that yet. But often young people don't want to join anything. They'd like to be associated with, they'd like to be involved, but signing their name on a form, that can be a step too far. So we just look for ways to keep people connected and involved, and at some point, usually when they've been working for a few years, and that can be a good time for them to join the association. As far as brothers go, the brother just needs the permission of the provincial. That's all. So the same discernment process, you don't go through with the brothers. And if any brother has a problem, like to take an extreme example, if a brother has been in trouble for say sexual abuse or something like that, they are not allowed to join. So that's, you know, even if they want to, no. So but we channel that through the brother provincial, so the provincial gives permission. And pretty much every brother who is active is in it, you know. There's one or two brothers who are not, just one or two. They say, well, I don't need to join anything else because I've given my life to this. That's enough. But they don't understand the meaning of it. You know, that it's a new space. We come together in a co-responsible way. You know? And you come as a brother. You bring your richness as a brother to the life of the association. But there are not many like that.
Hay otra pregunta, hermano Michael, en el chat. Viene de José Antonio Rosa, que se disculpa porque está en un sitio ruidoso y por eso la ha dejado en el chat, pero se la trasladamos. Nos dice, ¿qué trabajo piensan hacer en relación con lo que ha planteado el Foro de la Vocación Laical? ¿Qué nombre creen que recoge su realidad mejor que el de ley Mariste? Nos agradece mucho su intervención y aún nos traslada otra pregunta. ¿Cuál es la edad media de la asociación? ¿Qué compromiso supone ser miembro de la asociación? O sea, muchas preguntas de parte de José Antonio. Gracias, José.
Thank you, Jose Antonio. I can answer as many questions as you want to give me. I try to remember them. The average age is somewhere in the 40s. I think 45, something like that. The name for people are just happy to call themselves Marist, and rather than lay Marist, just I'm Marist. And even the students in our schools say that we are Marists, and that's enough. If they want to use the word lay, then in English anyway, it's better for us to say Marist layperson, or Marist layman, or Marist laywoman. So the Marist is the adjective, and layman or laywoman is the noun. But it's not usual English. It's not our usual way of saying things. But that's used a little bit. I didn't quite understand the question about the work, but well, first of all, commitment is annual, so it's renewed every year. But and there's a moment of each local group, as well as joining the association, you also join a local group, which is usually one group in one school. That local group decides when its moment of renewal will be. And sometimes it is a lot like June the 6th, the Feast of St. Marcelin. Others, the Assumption, August 15th. And they're the two most common dates that people do. And usually they have a Eucharist, a Mass, or some form of renewal. So there's a little ritual around that. They have a membership pin, 3 violets. They have a little certificate. So there's a little bit of formality around it in that way. As to the work they do, well, that's what they do professionally. The association doesn't choose their work for them mostly. That's done locally and individually. I hope that I have answered each of your questions, Jose Antonio.
Michael, había otra que José nos preguntaba, supongo que al hilo de lo que hablabas, ¿no? Que necesitamos gente joven. Él nos preguntaba cuál es la edad media de la asociación.
Yes, so we need young people, and we would like more people in their late 20s and 30s, but 40s is okay, you know? and most of the people who are applying to join, I'd say 80%, I guess. Most of them are teachers, mostly, and most are really active. They're really height of their career as teachers and active in their school. Good people, and a range of ages. We had a meeting just yesterday for our local group here where I am, and we had a presentation from Brother Tony Leon. Some of you would know him. And it was just an accident that it was a brother, because he was just a member of the formation team. And I think we had 25, 30 people there, including the headmaster, the head principal of the school, but also a couple of people who are very young teachers who are just joined the school this year. So there's a range, and it's typical. There's a range of ages and range of people.
Hay otra pregunta en el chat del hermano Tony Turrellas, que nos pregunta sobre la diferencia entre el movimiento champagnat de la familia marista y la Asociación Marista de Australia.
It is an interesting question, Tony, because
No, no tiene lenguajes.
I remember when the Marist, movement of the Marist Champagne movement or the Marist family started. We tried to start it in Australia. This is some years ago now, and it didn't really work. And I have thought about that, and I thought, why didn't it work? I think the thing that didn't work for us is that the mission element was not there. The spiritual element, yes. The community element, yes. But the mission element perhaps was missing. And I know when this, like speaking historically now, what was proposed at the 1985 chapter, and then what the General Council took on, Brother Charles Howard's council took on when they established the Champagne movement. They deliberately took that element out, the mission element out, and I think that's what was the problem here. You know, people wanted to be associated together, but their main reason for coming together was to do the work, to teach, to be with young people, to minister. And that's what, and the association, ideally, that's what brings this new association together. It exists for a mission. That's why people come together, to be Marist educators or Marist youth workers together with young people, to make a difference for young people, to be evangelizers and educators. And hopefully also it will nurture their own spiritual life, and it will help to deepen their Marist spirituality. And they will have a sense of doing that together in community. So you have the three elements. You have the community, you have the spirituality, but the basic one, the reason it exists is for mission.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for all that you explained to us. My question is, from your point of view and your experience, what is people receiving from their membership of the association? Because I am sure it's not only security, it's not only a job, it's not only relations, even it's not visibility in the Marist movement, it's something else. From your point of view, why people are still there? Why people want to join? What are they receiving from being members of the Marist Association? Thank you.
Yeah, Shari, it's a good question, because some members ask that question, you know, why should I join? I'm already in a Marist school. I'm already teaching in a Marist way. What's the reason for that? And I think there are two things. One is we need people to join. So part of how we promote this is we need you. We need a group of people who are going to be co-responsible for the future, who are going, from us will emerge leaders, will Marist leaders, will emerge Marist scholars. So we need you for that reason. But what attracts them, I think is they just, the Marist way attracts them, you know, and they want to go deeper with it. You know, they talk about, and the previous Pope Benedict used to speak about this, you know, of what brings people into the church. Sometimes he talked about people are sort of drawn into the church, into the narthex of the church, into the entrance of the church, and then we need to bring them further. And in my experience, people can be attracted to the Marist way for three reasons. Some people will be attracted by the professional angle, you know, yes, this is a good way to teach. This is a good way to relate with young people. This is a good school to be in. I'm comfortable here, you know. And as a professional educator, that attracts me, this Marist thing. Some people are attracted by the community. This group seems really good. they're my people. I'm at home with them. I can be myself. I like these people, you know. So some people are attracted by the community angle. And some, not most, not the majority, some people are attracted by the spirituality thing. They are genuinely searchers spiritually. They want to go further. This seems to be this spirituality seems to speak to me. So the trick is, whatever gets them in, then you take them to the other two. And hopefully their experience of being in the association will develop the other two elements in them.
Tenemos una pregunta por parte del hermano Ángel Medina. Andaban Ángel.
Hola, morning. Buenos días desde Manila. Michael, I'm happy for the presentation. And you said at the beginning that formation was one of the key points of the beginning of all this process. Now you said that you are more than 1,000 members in the association. How do you face this challenge of formation for them? You said at the end, formation, formation, and formation. And no, it's not necessary to explain all the details, no? But in which way this challenge is held in the association for them? Thank you.
Thank you, Agil, and good to see you. Yeah, lots of ways. I mean, I think if you look up our website, the Marist Formation website, you will see that in the course of a year, there are many things offered. There are several retreats offered. There are some stuff online. There are residential programs. There is the pilgrimage. We're always publishing little articles or short little pieces for reflection. We have a newsletter each month, which usually has some articles in it. So there's just lots of things, and each year the formation team develops a new program for the year. This year the program is called Pilgrims of Hope, you know, tapping into the Jubilee year. And that's taken to all schools. So not only members, but other people who are just in Marist schools have that program. We have a program of induction for new teachers. We have still the old 3-day residential program that is just, it gets oversubscribed. Too many people want to do it. We can't take them all. So in answer to your question, we just do a lot. That's we don't say, well, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. You need to do these things in this order. We just use a lot of things, and people tap into that according to who they are and where they are, what they need. Yeah, I think it's our strength in the context of the Australian church. There are many groups doing things, but we Marists are seen as the ones who do formation really well with lay people. You know, we have a reputation for it, and people are quite envious of what we do, and ask us. You know, how do you do all this? Now, part of it is because the most of the ministry is schools. Not only in schools, we have youth ministry and solidarity and youth work also. You know, youth welfare. But most of it is schools, and schools have resources. So schools can pay for, help to support financially these programs, and that enables us to do it. You know, I think it would be very difficult if we didn't have the basis of the number of institutions that we have who can support it financially.
Thank you.
because the team, as I said, is 8 or 9 people, and 5 or 6 of those are full-time people, you know. So that paying their salaries is, you know, the money needs to come from somewhere.
Michael, desde Dublín te envían recuerdos Lielis y el hermano Pigé, que muchos recuerdos. Y te proponen si nos puedes contar un poquito sobre programas de la juventud en Australia y si nos puedes hablar también un poco de la pastoral juvenil.
Okay, we for our young people, we for many years our main program was Rema, and that was good. It was particularly good in the province of Melbourne, more than the province of Sydney, in the old provinces. But we thought the need to change that a little bit about 5 or 6 years ago now. It just needed to be a bit more flexible, we thought, for schools to take it up, and also young adults. And so we changed the name. We call it Game Changers now, Game Changers. We expanded it to have younger students as well as older ones. It's largely school-based, but we have a national youth ministry coordinator, and we have 3 regional coordinators, and we have some part-time university students who work in our 3 offices who are involved. The school stuff, I think we are doing really well. The post-school stuff with young adults, you know, the 18 to 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, we are not doing that so well. We're doing some things well and some great young people involved, but we don't think we're really achieving all we could achieve with that age group. We have tried lots of things, as I'm sure you have, but it's just difficult to bring people together. It's expensive. So we're not sure about that. We in the past, we've had wonderful youth conferences, you know, just youth gatherings, youth festivals. But at the moment, that's a bit of a struggle for us. But the best people to talk to would be our youth ministry team, who puzzle about this all and wonder and plan about this all the time.
Michael, pues yo también te pregunto, tú has contado antes que en el 2010 os planteabais un sueño, ¿no? ¿Cómo nos veremos dentro de 10, 20, 30 años? Ahora han pasado unos cuantos años. Te plantearía la misma pregunta hoy, ¿no? Quizás de cómo ves el Instituto Marista, cómo veis vuestra realidad en Australia dentro de 20, 30 años y cómo veis al Instituto Marista en general. Vamos a soñar un poco.
It's interesting for me to look back now at what we were saying 15 years ago and what we might be saying in 15 years' time. The reality for us is that there will be very few, tiny number of brothers in Australia in other parts of the Brothers Province, like for example in Timor-Leste, we have many young men joining us, but they will not be the answer in Australia. I mean, they would not even be able to get visas to come to Australia. You know, it's the problems of having a province of 11 or 13 countries. So our future is largely lay, almost entirely. You know, 50 years ago when I joined, it was 90% brothers. The situation now is it's 90% lay, and in 15 years' time, I think it will be 99% like. So we need to embrace that, you know, rather than feel sad, which I do, but rather than feel sad about it or wish it was different, we need to look at the positives and work out what we can do. And what we can do, I think, is what we're trying to do with this association. It gives us a structure. It gives us not just a hope. It gives us something concrete, something formal, something that exists civilly and canonically. It picks up on the momentum of this time. Now, it may change a little bit, you know, as we go along, but just at the moment, it seems to be what we need to do to ensure that Marist life and Marist mission has a strong future in Australia. And sadly for me, anyway, it's going to be largely without brothers.
Pues Michael, muchísimas gracias por tu intervención, por todo este recorrido que nos has hecho, por habernos dado elementos para pensar, para ver más allá, ¿no? También muchas gracias a todos vosotros los que habéis estado conectados. Gracias también, como siempre, a nuestros traductores, a Andrea y a Josep Lluís. Y nada, deciros que esta serie de webinars va a continuar. Todavía no os podemos concretar la fecha del próximo webinar, pero sí que os podemos decir que os mantengáis atentos a vuestros correos, a las redes sociales, porque habrá otro webinar próximamente. No os podemos concretar la fecha, pero sí que os podemos decir que tendrá relación, que tendrá que ver con el ámbito de la espiritualidad. Por lo tanto, os esperamos aquí en un futuro próximo. Como siempre, pues buscamos propuestas que nos inviten a la reflexión, a estos momentos de calma compartida, ¿no? Esta vida marista que continúa fluyendo, que va fluyendo. Pues gracias a todos, gracias Michael, muchísimas gracias por haber contestado generosamente a todo lo que te hemos planteado y buenas noches, buenas tardes, buenos días.